I want to talk about to if you ever get a chance to go watch this video, where he's talking about this article in Newsweek. What is disturbing about this article? Well, two things for this is disturbing is apparently that's just one thing. It's this last part. From my perspective, is a personal thing. hmm But mostly about I hope that first off, he's not speaking about me because I ain't profiting off of this. If I am, I don't know about it. And two, whatever image is being cast, it's not being done by me. Right now, because everything I have said probably been chopped up, turned into something else. Raven's making his money, or whatever, because his error and everything else is still covering his ass. But this is a really good read. The main reason it's a really good read is the Attorney General news, the acting Attorney General, because the other one dipped, knew something was up. The chatter would have known that something was up for just by reading this. This is not normal. This is something that needs to be read because it means they knew, the national authorities knew this was a coup. This was a planned coup. He's very correct as far as what he was saying. I have no idea what's being chopped up or put out there because I know my words are not being, my actual words are not being used. as with the situation with the former CIA director. Um, yeah, but that last part where Bo was saying, yeah, yeah, Bo, you're right on many things, but there are certain things I can guarantee you don't know. Um, if this country falls, I'm playing. You need to place the blame squarely. Well, there's a lot of people. It started with Hillary's refusal to uh, well, let's start with African Americans and generations to the point where they just simply would not listen to anything, just being out of spite, even though they knew Bernie's proposals would work for them. You had most of the country truly believing in Bernie, and then Hillary pulling some BS in New York instead of fighting out to the end, thinking, oh well, you just shut up and do what you're told and get in line. So those two things in the 2016 election, not seeing, because I was back then yelling that this guy is that Trump is a fascist. These white nationalists are flipping out. They're going all in. To within the last year, he constantly everything I was recording being twisted wherever it's being dumped online. The Navy itself and McRaven covering their ass as far as the bigotry that is part of the well, no, U.S. military, but the Navy definitely in particular, and also how bigots act and work, and then this whole ginning up by Fox News, more precisely, lacking of Fox News, and lacking Murdoch with their disinformation. There was a point mid about was it a Marchish area time frame where Tucker Carlson was going through a psychic split. So he knows that what he's saying is pure bullshit. He couldn't handle it for a while. Now he's just all in with it. To the vice president's former chief of staff, who was more worried about being black than about the country. My brother throwing me under the bus, my mother as well, thinking this is all a fucking game. And that fucking sister-in-law. Did you have all the gay folks spending months with their bullshit, counteracting everything I said? There's looking at you, Kathleen Kennedy. This country falls, it's all on you. You thought this was a fucking game. Yeah, Kardashians. Whatever image they're trying to portray, I have no fucking idea. But I'm a pretty simple, boring, blunt individual. And I am as intelligent as I've proven myself to be. And I was even more so back then. And a hell of a lot tougher than many want to believe. Funny thing about McRaven and all of his bullshit, if he had failed as many times in his attacks with me, if I had failed in as many times as he did in his attacks on me, I would have been removed within the first month. But it shows what happens with bigots. They just keep you in opportunity, opportunity after opportunity, opportunity, then go, oh, see how good I am? That was the thing. That dude, Rob, it's fucking, you know, Renesky, Rob Kroll, Full Sail. What I've proven is how bigots need their bigotry to compete. How it is universal, regardless of race. It is just a behavior pattern. Same thing that's going on dealing with, because I've been in California. Dipshits. These three raped this woman. Then, this is the second time, by the way. The first time, I had sent a text to her going, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you getting yourself involved in this? I didn't think for a second to realize that she didn't probably want to. But then, but actually she did. Because it gets them fucked up. And then they did it a second time. This time there, she was afraid. And there were witnesses. But instead of sucking it up and gutting it up, dude Mike Geometry is sitting there thinking that he can use my computer screen to do his promotions when he is now aiding and abetting a felon and then tries to gaslight. They're doing the whole what? When I'm telling him, I'm calling him out. I'm like, look, dude, you need to quit this shit. I know for a fact they probably attacked Big Will, who did not say anything. I figured out that Ty was a gangbanger, not from his words directly or indirectly. Well, mostly from him not realizing I can deduce information in ways that most people can't. And they've spent the last year covering up their fucking failure to let somebody like me get out of the military because of their bigotry. Gallo's thinking, well, I can keep him from getting a job or whatever. I can sit there. Then he won't. Then he'll roll back in. How do I know this? Because he did that to a couple other people while I was in. The incompetence of the quote leadership is disgusting. At that time, I mean. When I said that I'm probably going to jail or I'm dead, I meant that. And he's talking. If he's talking about me making money off of, say, hey, fucking seen a dime if I'm making money. God help me. Sure enough, the YouTube channel. My YouTube channel. Now, if it's going on to another YouTube channel, wherever the fuck this is being pushed, I have no idea. As I said, I purposely put my head in the ground. I've known this, figured everything I have figured out, it said, is simply through observation, which is mind numbing to a lot of people. The former President of the United States attempted to overthrow the government of the United States. Just as I said to a lady who was acting all snotty and snooty and shitty. So I asked her, do you think he was going to give up power? And now Fox News, far right, fascist propaganda, silos people, and prepares the ground for a next coup. Just as Hitler used the media, so is Trump. He is, as far as my from perspective, he is a traitor. And then so is Mitch McConnell for not doing his job, holding them to account. He put his party above the country and fucking knew it. Lindsey Graham, spineless little shit. Kevin McCarthy. Power for power's sake leaves you without power. If you think power comes from one person, then you were wrong. The system was designed for the Congress, the persons within the Congress, to grab as much power through Congress as possible. If they fail to do so, they should be removed from Congress. And then, two, Congress is supposed to gobble as much power from the president as possible. Why Mitch McConnell did some fucking tomfoolery on purpose and just said, well, I'll get away with it because it's political. No, you're a traitor, Mitch McConnell. By not holding the president to an account and by dilly-dallying on the articles of impeachment, and then more importantly, by not voting to impeach the former president, you're in breach of your constitutional duty. But as we know now over the years, the battle between America has always been between secularism and theocracy. And the theocrats and are convincing all of these people, patriots, who have no idea how this country was put together, to overthrow the very country. All for saying all because of their bigotry. And the thing is, they have been brainwashed. They're reduced to one triggering, angry thing. Everything they're doing is just lost. There's a Facebook friend, known her in real life, and watching her descend down into this mouth of madness. I actually understand it because it's it's easy to get into that what I call hype marketing, where everything is a trigger. Very few people pull away from it. It was something I noticed. A didn't reason I took internet marketing at Full Sales. I did not like it. I did not like when I was learning marketing. Well, when I got out, a lot of the systems were really scammy. Very, I was online. It was a lot of salesy. That's when I like the difference came in difference between sales and marketing. And when I was realizing there was a lot of this hype marketing, we know that a great deal, actually all of Republican marketing is designed to say that they're the patriots, and it's all angry, 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 angry. I'm looking at this one book where it was the candidacy for California 12, and they're talking about this whole elitist and things. It's such projection because they're the elitist. They're the ones with all the money, and have gotten the working person to believe that these white nationalists are on their side, which fits the whole give them dialectic, give the idiots the emotion and take their capital. There was another thing I was reading in Barron's where a wealth tax was being thought of, and Elon Musk tweets, and then all of a sudden he disappears. That's bullshit. Most of his money has been about the separation of Wall Street from Main Street. Mansions, bitching. So there needs to be a wealth tax because most of the capital is false of some sort. Preferably, that still maintains the capital, but there needs to be a tax on the rich. Period. This is bullshit. A capital gains. You want to be wealthy? You should know how to make money and bring it back into the real economy. There's no reason, and two, corporations are not people. They are entities designed to do a specific job. They might say, well, some mystics, well, that's people, but no, that's not people. Pardon me. Then Newsweek, this article is extremely disturbing. Not just from what Bo said, but a lot of different things. Manchin's behavior is absolutely abhorrent. But the good news is we know him and Sinema are. Personally, the Democratic Party should not say, hey, so what? You make a, you bring in a lot of money from big donors, but when it's time to actually be part of the party, you're not representing your constituents because when you look at the polling within your own district, within your own state, just supposedly who you're supposed to be representing, you're going against what their will is. You're relying on the Fox, OAN, Newsmax propaganda, which is part Russian troll propaganda. You're backing the agenda of a traitor and not your party. Leader Schumer said, oh, voting rights will get passed. I doubt it very seriously with Manchin and Sinema. I view them as traitors. Sinema is too busy worried about being her disdain and disgust, which is the very main state of her emotion set. And I was watching Butter Bachelor, he's like, he doesn't believe there's EQ. Well, there is EQ because it is actually a logical proposition from the self set of I. And it is a logical proposition, but what they based on math of set theory. And you can use Kolmogorov, which is also used set theory overlaid, which is an isomorphism with also calculus. The scariest thing is that you the process is universal. I'm seeing the same thing that's happening that Trump is doing, and some of the things I do dealing with this idiot in California. It's just it's the same thing that Trump does. So it's definitely universal behavior, and it's basically a 3 to 5 year old going from one parent to the next. What happened with once this started going? What did the 3 year old over in California do? She rolls up to Kathleen Kennedy. Once they take out Kathleen Kennedy, she rolls up to first rolls into uses the gangs, then tries to use Kathleen to next mommy, which is Kathleen Kennedy. Then the next one was the Kardashians. Who's the next person they're trying to roll to? Well, it looks probably like Kate and Prince William. And Kate and Prince William, they're coming over to America. That's basically to undercut Harry. And Kate Middleton's constantly creating this mess. She should realize and start working about fixing and strengthening the Commonwealth, because that's why Britain was able to leave the Brett is going after Brett was leaving Brexit, because they figure they already have all of these other trading partners, whom a lot of are brown people. Black and brown is the wording, I guess. There's a great line in Stranger in Strange Land. Only shows up that particular character shows up only for one, barely less than like 1 page, and it was stated. It was said, she was a simple woman. She believed men should rule the world, and women should rule men, and that's what Kate Middleton is doing with Prince William. Create the pain, and then also be the salve on that pain. He's going to find out a lot of different things that he thinks he knows. He doesn't. And he's going to say, well, that's the same thing about me. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But you don't have my abilities. He doesn't have my abilities. World is at a crossroads. There's a thing saying, oh, China won't go in Taiwan. If Z sees an open opportunity, he's rolling over the straits, which then threatens Japan. And his whole goal is to capitulate the whole South China area to China, thus weakening America. It's like, well, got all this trade doesn't mean jack shit. The greatest export is the US dollar. Switching the reserve currency of the world, which is based on oil, traded in dollars, switching that to the Chinese yuan hammers the United States. All these people think they're going to align with these fascist powers, the communist, and then the fascist or neo-fascist powers of Russia and all these strongmen or autocratic powers, while still maintaining the democratic norms. Nah, that's not how it works. With they're being brainwashed so badly. There's a person on the old Facebook, as I said, and it's sad to see where she's tumbled to. They can't. They just don't. People just don't want to believe because that means everything they've been told is a lie. All the emotions they invested were lies. And they'll keep going and going. And this is exactly what happened during World War II. What CBS did, um, you know, this is horrifying when you're listening to what is being said. But listen to the denial. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. This guy is a traitor. Fox News, under Lackham and Rupert Murdoch, are traitors. Not just to America, but to Western civilization that they supposedly are about. African Americans are needed to save the democracy, save the republic, and Manchin wants it, doesn't see anything because, well, he's figured he's safe. He's Caucasoid. They're not going to come for him. Do you think that they ever stop? You dipshit. You arrogant fuck. And you're like, well, you don't talk. Go fuck yourself. I'll talk to you any way I want. And then you probably say, well, I'll talk to you anyway. Same shit. Knowing he is incorrect, knowing, proven that he's a bigot by his own actions. First, by throwing out the dog whistle, niggers are coming for your money. Or then the second one where he was using a, oh, I can control this Negro with Senator Warnock photo shoot to the point where the coal miners union that he's been playing finally realized, opened up their eyes and realized he's been playing us, and they endorsed the Build Back Better because he doesn't give a crap about. He's all he's is about his little pocketbook. You know, so let's see here. So, United Mine Workers of America. And then makes it worse is the he said, well, I'll worry about the tax credit, and it's even watered down to do exactly the opposite of what it was doing, supposed to do, which is help lift childhood poverty, so that way people could eventually work their way out through the next generation out of poverty and into good paying jobs, being productive members of the society. But we know through historical precedents that area of the country is kept in poverty, by Mitch McConnell, persons like Mitch McConnell, and now we know Joe Manchin purposely has kept those people in the mountains poor for the line their own pockets, poor and uneducated, and then they blame African Americans. We know, as far as illegal immigration, the Chamber of Commerce actually keeps illegal immigration going because it does not go after these companies that hire illegal immigrants. If there weren't any jobs, they wouldn't come, or they would all be relegated to just the illegal trades, which is what they keep trying to make it look like, when the reality is they hire these people so they keep coming, therefore lowering wages and opportunities on regular workers. And then when regular workers complain, they say, okay, we ship the jobs overseas with no, just like Ross Perot said, with NAFTA, it's going to be a giant sucking sound. Boy, has it ever. Then those monies, because the politicians in South America are so in bed with the cartels, they are pretty much hand in hand. And that's what I'm trying to stop in California from happening with this dipshit like Kathleen Kennedy and McRaven. While everyone else is like, ooh, ha, ha, laughing at me. Meanwhile, you're undercutting your own fucking, undercutting the country and the state of California. All because you need racism, or more precisely, bigotry, as an externalization of self. Now, as they're working on voting rights, we know Manchin does not want the Build Back Better, the human infrastructure, to go through because he's stuck in the past and not understanding the technologies that are coming down the pike and what's upcoming. And the necessary investments in human infrastructure in order to not turn this country into a total third world country, which is what this absolutely batshit stupid 1% wants. They think the idea of an autocracy is good because business is, for the most part, a dictatorship. So they figure, well, I have a dictatorship, why not extend it to the country? There always must be a balance. In other words, persons are allowed to make money in their own little micro dictatorships on the understanding that those dictatorships are not to come into the public square, into the commons. Because what always happens is there's always somebody fighting to be the next dictator. That's what happened to the Roman Republic, and that is what Aristotle, Plato was talking about. It was Aristotle. I mean, Plato in the Republic. Charismatic jackass comes through, gets everyone all ginned up, and then becomes powerful, as opposed to the patience necessary. Trump is the biggest coward. Ivanka is the same way. Everyone around Don Jr. is just a worrywart. These people are toxic. And they've pushed their toxicity onto the rest of the country and the world. The evangelicals are so worried about being raptured and trying to find prophecies. Not saying the prophecies aren't there, but they're so worried about the prophecies, not worried about the country. So, and it's mostly they say the prophecies, but it's realistically all on their bigotry because it's usually Caucasian. When you say evangelicals, you're talking about Caucasian evangelicals, which just gives psychopathy a way of being a better psychopath with tax exempt status. Personally, the chances, so while everyone's wasting their time with Manchin, but they have to get something through for voting rights. Because if you don't, if these next two elections, if there's not overwhelming turnout, the old people have lost their marbles. They're so bitter and twisted and lost. They're trying to block young people from voting. They're trying to block. It's what I find hilarious about their whole freedom thing is we have freedom, but you should not. That's not freedom. That's cowardice. takes a lot of courage to actually have true freedom, because you have to expect freedom of others beside you. And there's one thing we've learned about these persons who externalize themselves is they're cowards. It was funny. I was sitting there watching the Scientology thing with Miss Remini. I don't know, Leah Remini, and they were doing part where Scientology is infiltrating the Nation of Islam, and also listening to it is pretty much a damn pyramid scheme. But listening to, there was a part where the former Nation of Islam members were talking about the old way was if you had a problem with somebody, you manned up or womaned up and you sat down and you had a conversation with them. You go, okay, I have this situation, you have this, let's communicate, which is what you're supposed to do, which is what an adult human is supposed to do. At least an American. Might not agree with everything Farrakhan says. Actually, I don't agree with a lot of things Farrakhan says. You know, personally, they killed Malcolm X. Not, it's when he realized racism is stupid, or bigotry are based on an external factor is absolutely ridiculous. They couldn't have that, because then you want half of the dialectic cut off. Can't have that because they have to use the AB dialectic to keep people all ginned up. But that was part of, and then you have in group, out group. So we're seeing this change within the Nation of Islam, where it's all about edifying. That's one thing I remember. I was freaking doing this sales thing. Edify some you people above you. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. But that the person above you or whatever could do no wrong, or if you have somebody you disagree, just shut up and do what you're told. It means you're a cog. It means you're an object. Scientology, from everything, not just from what she was saying, but just listening to the structure. It's a whole system designed not to integrate the human person, but to disintegrate them and turn and do an AB, internal external dialectic. It's gold. So now, more than likely, they're going to start following me and trying to harass me, which is exactly what externalizing people do. They try to externalize their fears, thinking that it will go away. So they have to constantly keep creating more chaos, because the more interactions they have, which they need, because the more crazy they have to keep creating. And they can only work on the anger and pain of others. So here's the thing. If the Senate passes anything with Build Back Better and the House accepts it, shame on them. What the House needs to do is say, okay, thank you very much, nice piece of legislation. Split off the child tax credit, where it actually helps poor people, and send it back. And then take the Build Back Better at $6 trillion, because Manchin never, ever was negotiating. Manchin and Sinema were never negotiating in good faith. He said, oh, my top line number is 1.5 trillion. Hell no. As Bernie Sanders said, the whole my way or the highway, he's not the president. And it's kind of ironic he was talking about people come to Washington and they use their power. They'll have yeah, projecting bullshit. 1.5 trillion should have been his what's called the ridiculously lowball offer. Okay, that's your starting point. We work up, but he was never planning on ever. That's like because this is the thing. At 1.5 trillion, you get these programs through. They're designed to fail. It's just enough. That's one of the things they love to do. That's one of their tactics. Is they'll go, here it is. Oh well, guess it didn't work out. So you're gonna rebuild the House Democrats are gonna bring it back in. Go okay, that's nice. Put it back up at 6 trillion. Original Bernie said you need something to get through because the child tax credit. Split that off. Send it back over to the Senate because that's an immediate relief to a large voting bloc. Manchin's whole thing was a work requirement, which was a bunch of bullshit, which just means people who make 60 grand and up, which means it doesn't get down to the working poor and to the working class. So the people who need that child tax credit the least are the ones who get it. Which means the Republicans would say, "Look, see, we fooled them. We got that child tax credit for you." So unless tell Manchin go pound sand, and then the other one you want to put pressure on is cinema, which is the prescription and eyeglasses and hearing aids for the elders and dental. We've given all this money to the uber rich. Time for them to pay their fair share. Because they've shipped jobs overseas. And the other things they like to do is they're trying to say, oh, here's all of these benefits. But as we're seeing with Starbucks, as soon as you start using those benefits, oh, we can't let you have those benefits. But as we know within the military, that whole idea of all these benefits came from the military because you can't have a fighting force that has no teeth, that's not in good shape. You can't have a workforce that's just all broken down, that has no hope for their future and their child's future. These are investments in people, and people are not cogs unless the person thinks like a psychopath. So the question is, are Manchin and Cinema psychopaths and narcissists? Their actions say are that of. But maybe that's just a thing of the political thing situation. So to counter this, once again, you comes back, split it up. You do full build back better. You keep the veteran services because the part of the veteran stuff was supposed to be going through to revamp the VA hospital, revamp transition assistance. I want transition assistance for veterans getting out. Apparently, within the Navy, they're adding 2 weeks to boot camp, which they do need. Toughen them up because too often, the shysters are getting through and they're just. It's one thing I really didn't like about the Navy boot camp was it allowed shysters to be shysters, and their idea of leadership was not. I said best technical, not the best leadership. Most of it because the persons they believe leaders were, you know, are more extroverted, which is cluster B type mindsets, externalizations. So it's good, especially with the amount of automation that's coming through necessary to run these ships. Oh, but where was I? Oh yeah, because they're finally vetting sailors because they would purposely try to keep sailors from getting educated. And then some people say, well, they're getting degrees, they're going to be out now. Becoming officers is far harder than that, than just getting a degree. And most sergeant majors, or have by the time they make sergeant majors, they have their bachelors anyways. They were keeping them uneducated because it means they would actually have to lead as opposed to just manage. Sergeant major is the same thing as master chief on the listed ranks. Yeah, I'll keep getting crisscrossed on. So back to the House needs to, once the House one comes back, Build Back Better needs to be split into two bills. One for short term, which is the child tax credit, because that needs to get passed. These people, once February hits, it's going to really be harmful for them. That needs to be passed, and put that into two bills: one with child tax credit and one with the dental and vision on expansion of Medicaid, paid for by the trillionaires now. Yeah, that whole little stunt that Musk pulled, oh, is a one-time deal. Oh, I sold $11 billion, blah blah blah. Yeah, he's doing that. So here's some pennies, you peasants. After building his fortunes in this country off of the work and mind and culture of it, and he can't put anything back to it. He can go fuck himself. So, work, mind, and money actually. So, it's child tax credit, um, because of immediate relief, and prescription drugs into one bill. This puts pressure on Manchin and Cinema in one bill. Now they'll be pissed off if that goes through because it's going to put pressure on them and show that they're bought out. Then you're going to take the rest of the Build Back Better, which has the veterans, you know, affordable education, earned the big parts of it, earned income tax credits. There should have been climate change provisions. Yeah, where's this part with the vets in here? It used to be in here. Oh, I guess. Yeah. Community college. Now there should be some stuff in here for veterans, as far as really finally updating the VA, rebuilding the hospitals, the VA hospitals, transition assistance benefits for the veterans. That needs to be in the second larger bill. And then you send that back to the Senate. Do not take what they give you. It is better to go down swinging and fighting and show that the corporations are blocking the things that people want, and run on, these are the things we're trying to get through. We need you to vote Democrat. You say you like these provisions. Don't say they're part of the Build Back Better. Break it up. Go with because what's going to happen is then they're going to try to trigger everybody, and even when they do, you start running on the fact, do you like this? Do you think this investment will help? Also, when you put the investments together, go, hey, look, not only are we doing it this way, we're saying, because even Wall Street has said the Build Back Better not being passed has taken 1% of GDP growth. Because what the Republicans will then do is we'll say, well, we'll pass it when we're in, but they never will pass it, or they'll give crumbs, which is what Manchin's doing. And those crumbs are basically designed to fail, or they're designed to make it look good, but then realistically keep pouring money upwards and keep it and poor and making people poor. That's the game of the and they go, here's the Bible, you need Jesus. This is what the modern Republican Party has turned into because of the influx of the Dixiecrats. But a lot of these programs should be okay. This is because these are investments, and we know with an investment we go, okay, you're saying this program is going to do this. What are the outputs, expected outputs, 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, and 10 years, and then have that where these audits come back and go, okay, is this program working? What adjustments do we need to make? And then look at the next time frame to see if those adjustments are reaching the supposed goals of those particular programs. And if you do it that way, it gives you a place to fight when the Republican or the one percenters, so-called libertarians, try to destroy the programs, because that's what they're eventually going to do. Is you have to build the systems with the assumption that they're going to try to tear it down. The autocrats, the would-be autocrats, are going to try to tear it down. So once again, Senate's going to bring back the Build Back Better if they do pass it, probably in February, because first we got to get voting rights. It needs to be an all-in push for voting rights. Right now it's cold, it's crappy, but if worse comes to worse, people need to march. If there's ever a time in the freaking history, Black Lives Matter, we had the opportunity over the summer, but you were too busy worried about, oh, I'm not black enough. Just stupid. And then Kathleen Kennedy's using freaking little Nas X to counter everything I'm saying, and to cover up her terrible behavior, and then back a fucking cartel member who's going to give a horrible human being political power, and that organization down into Mexico, which would gut California. Good job. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Getting played. So, Build Back Better bill, two parts. One part with everything else, added with veterans, like really, really investing in the VA, updating all of the VA hospitals, opening clinics, smaller clinics, instead of trying to privatize it. Small rural clinics that are away from the main VA hospital. Expansion of affordable health care, because if African Americans and the workers are going to save this country, they need to be paid for doing it. That's the capitalist way. And then do so with all the programs with a 2, 5-year, 7, and a 10-year expectation, with goal expectation, so you can change or maneuver or manipulate or even close down the programs if they're not working. And it also gives you the position to know where the Republicans are going to attack, or what they're going to, or just say the autocrats, because they're not Republicans. And they're damn sure not conservatives. The are going to attack, and then two, to set up Manchin and Cinema to prove, because that you so you get the child tax credit through that's not watered down. None of his little bullshit because he negotiated in bad faith. We're not going to give in to his. We're not. We're going to hold his feet to the fire. And two, and the third part is, if they don't get on board, you don't fund them for their next reelection campaign. Cinema is not going to matter because she already got her little golden parachute. She's trying to get the flip out of Senate anyways. She doesn't care. Manchin, they say, well, he's going to go to the Republican Party, or Cinema might go to the Republican. Screw it, because if they go to the Republican Party, they will lose all of their power. Only idiots. Anytime you have you accept people from the other side who come over, but you don't give them power for a very, very, very long time. Mitch McConnell might be a traitor, but he's not a stupid traitor. The filibuster needs to be changed. And if Manchin and Sinema don't get on board at this time in history, the collapse of the United States is on their shoulders. And they'll be written about just as you write about Valerian and all of the emperors that screwed up the Roman Empire on its slow decline after it became an empire. After Augustus made himself emperor and the republic was no more. The Republican Party, and then thirdly, and another thing is, the Democrats need to get a spine. You need to be like, look, Mitch, we're going to impeach you, or we're going to impeach him. It's either you or Trump. You put party above the Constitution, and you know it. And you have no backbone to tell your supporters the former president was lying because you could figure you could roll on the power. Here's the thing. If he was to get in, again, he would then come after you. He would then destroy you, just as Xi destroyed the Politburo in China to consolidate all of his power, just as same thing that's happened in Hungary, same thing that's happened in Russia, same thing that's Bolsonaro's trying to do in Brazil, same thing that's Erdogan has done in Turkey, who's just eyeballing the EU into trying to regrow the Ottoman Empire. Because that dude does not know anything about history. Mitch McConnell knows he's screwed. If the House doesn't impeach the former president again, and if Merrick Garland does not, after all the information is done, in panel a grand jury, then the Republic, if there are criminal situations, which, yeah, right, okay, there are criminal situations, but if if they're not, if there are criminal referrals from the January 6th committee, Merrick Garland needs to in panel a grand jury. If it is shown, which it probably will be, if it isn't, maybe not, persons like Ted Cruz, uh, Lindsey Graham, any of them had anything to do with January 6th, they need to be impeached. And technically, because they did not vote to hold former President Trump accountable, they can be impeached already. Because under the Constitution, their job is to gain and grab as much power from the president as possible. And by letting the former vice president, the former president, run roughshod over them, they were in dereliction of duty. So once again, starting out where I was at the very beginning, you know, and then we have this because that the acting attorney general knew that this was a bunch of BS, knew that this was a threat to democracy. Because if he's like, oh, attack on Donald Trump or Vice President Pence, right? They, and then and this is where what it, yeah, nothing. And for those who are, McRaven's probably cutting this up to say I wasn't at damn neck to cover his ass. As far as I'm concerned, he's a traitor. And especially it irks me to think I'm getting paid. I have no money. I am not. You know, I'll probably say that. I am. All I've gotten is my normal VA benefits. Because one, I won't take anything. They tried dangling that bullshit. I'm doing this because, as I said, shit's hitting the fan. Russia and China are laughing at us, and they're gonna hit. But it's up to us. Do we want a democracy? Can we keep it? Do we want to maintain the republic? Young people, if there are any people, I assume there are young people listening to this, you need to put as much pressure on Congress as possible. Sustain pressure. This is the, I guess, second hippie generation, I guess, which had a lot of pushback from the right. And then they turned into the same people who tore it apart, but tore down everything, the Great Society. You need to rebuild the Great Society. But to do that, you need to put pressure on Congress. Sustained, unrelenting pressure. Targeted, of course. When Schumer brings up the voting rights to vote, you need to flood. It needs to be marches the day before, the day of, until it's done. You need to flood your congresspersons with messages and phone calls. Patience, can't do it yet. Wait for Schumer to put it onto the floor. And hopefully he won't do some shit where he goes, oh, I'll put it on the floor and then wait a week and then fuck up the moment. Let Manchin show his true colors. Let Manchin and Cinema show their true colors. And then after it fails, be prepared to then go in and get registered, find out, create processes and systems to get everyone to the polls, even if it means doing GoFundMe pages to rent cars or trucks to get elders to the polls and people to the polls, especially in these restrictive red states. You can't win by 10,000 votes. It has to be overwhelming. Absolutely overwhelming. 3 to 4%, just a smackdown. Trump and his family are traitors. That's all I can say. That's my hypothesis. Innocent until proven guilty. But if the evidence comes out that to the positive of that statement, then it's going to require a backbone of monumental proportions.